it's Kamel Farahani here with MetalTalk MTTV. Today's guest is nothing short of a true legend, Mr. Rudy Sarzo. Hello, sir.
Hey, Kamel, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Legend sounds so old,
Well, living legend, contemporary great.
It just sounds like a character out of Lord of the Rings. What is it? Gandalf, the guy with the beard, and
Were you the Bass Wizard?
The Bass Wizard.
So, and there's so much to talk about, but the first thing I want to ask is the same thing I've been asking every musician I've talked to, which is, how are you doing on weird times in lockdown? How's everything?
I'm one of those guys that I do not go out. I really don't socialize that much. When I'm at home, I'm at home. I don't go to restaurants or anything because on the weekends is where I do my traveling. See, by choice, what I do now, my touring consists of weekend shows. I'm in a band called The Guess Who, and it's basically in the classic rock circuit. And we do a lot of casinos and performing arts centers. And so it's, festivals in the summer, but it's not set up for us to go on the road for, like, let's say 3 months on a tour bus. I've been on the tour bus for many years, and now I can't really stand it. I would have to be a situation that it's like I cannot turn it down, and I'm really happy with the Guess Who, so I do not foresee that in my future. But by choice, I fly. We fly. Let's say we leave on a Thursday and come back on a Sunday, and I'm home for the rest of the week. When I'm home, I'm home. So for me to be here, I can be very productive, which is what I usually do when I'm home. So aside from the devastation of the loss of lives and all the illnesses that this virus is causing, aside of that, this situation has not really had much of an effect on me.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I thought if you want, we can start with the modern, whatever's going on now, before we go down memory lane. I was going to ask about, you're in the Guess Who at the moment, which maybe some people don't know at all, but how did that come about? Because they're pretty old school, established American kind of icon of rock.
It usually starts with a phone call and, getting to know people. And I happen to be really good friends with Sass Jordan, who is married, the Canadian singer.
Yeah.
And she's married to the lead singer in the Guess Who, Derek Sharp. So they were looking for a bass player because their original bass player, Jim Cale, from like the founding member bass player, was retiring. So she suggested to have Derek give me a call, and that's how the whole thing started rolling, And first I was subbing because Jim would do some shows. He was easing his way out, And then when it became official that he was going to retire, they asked me to if I wanted to commit to the band, which I am. I've been doing it almost for five years now. Yeah.
Wow. That's terrific. Besides you work with the Guess Who, you've got have you still got your podcast? I think it's called The Dash.
Yeah, it's really not a podcast, and I'll explain the difference because I get a lot of requests from people that want to download it.
Yeah.
And it's not available for download, being that it's an old-fashioned radio show where, by old-fashioned is that it broadcasts, you have to tune in at that time. It's on the Dash network, which is completely subscription and ad-free, so there's no money. The listener does not pay money, so there's no money going in. And to actually have on Monsters of Rock Radio, which is the station that my show is on, it's not cost effective to have the show available for download, because you have to pay for the publishing rights of every single song that's included in the show
Yeah.
as part of the download. And since there's no money involved, you can't do that. So they have to tune in. And the music that we play during the show, it's a 4-hour show. We do 2 segments of about 10 or 15 minutes of conversation. So that's half hour of conversation, and then half hour per hour, half hour of music related to our conversation and the guests that come on our show.
Okay, that's brilliant. Actually, I have to check that out. I don't know if I can get it here. I'm sure we can somehow. The next thing I wanted to ask you, actually, when I was looking through some of your current projects or recent projects, one I saw was your Sawtooth signature bass.
Yes.
So if you could tell us, for all the bass players out there, how did that come about? And
yes, I started working with a company called ChromaCast, who they have a guitar division. It's called Sawtooth. And with ChromaCast, I designed guitar bags for them, my own signature model bass bag, because I have a collection of basses that and when I used to go in the studio, which I still record, but in my home studio. And I'm not talking about putting all my gear in a car and going to a studio like we used to. Back then, there were some guitars and basses that I couldn't take with me because I didn't have a bag. And the guitar and the bass case was too large for my Prius. So I started designing bags that would be universal bags that would fit a Thunderbird, any big size, oversized instrument. They will fit in this bag beautifully. And so my relationship with them grew with ChromaCast. So they asked me to design an acoustic bass for them because I already have my signature model bass guitar with Spectre. That's been going on for a while now. And so I designed this acoustic bass from, usually when I design something, not like with Spectre, because it's such an iconic shape, most of the signature models retain the same shape. So we did a couple of alterations to it, and then we added the Sims pickups and so that was new, introducing something new to the line, and it's been doing really, really well. And but for the Sawtooth, I had the opportunity to create a bass a brand new shape, everything like I've done in the past with companies like PV or Washburn, something original design. And this company happens to be about 20 minutes from my house, which is very rare. Okay. Because, there's a lot of companies out there, or let's say Spectre. Spectre is, they have different workshops. One of the factories is in Germany, which is where my bass is built at the Euro line. And then they have the custom shop in New York. And so if you're going to make any change in your design or any, little customized little thing to it, you have to wait until NAMM. And this year, there's no NAMM show. It's just been canceled.
Yeah. I saw some people talking that's going to go online, and I don't know. Seems a bit weird.
Well,
somebody's.
Yeah.
Somebody,
it's not.
I heard somebody say. I heard someone say NAMM online is Amazon, which is unfortunate. But
we'll see. We'll see.
Hopefully.
We'll see. I mean, I've done some other events. There's one called Gear Fest, which is in Fort Wayne, Indiana, home of Sweetwater, and they do a spectacular job. Also, it's a mini NAMM. They do it in the huge parking lot. That place, Sweetwater, is. I mean, if you need to order something online, that's the place to go to. Everything is checked, all the instruments, 55 points of check that they do, and they keep adding points, so it might be even more now. and they take a photo of the actual piece, the gear that is for sale. It's not like it's like a universal
stock
photo. Yeah, stock photo. It's something that if you see a photo of this instrument, that's the one you're getting. And it's an incredible experience even to visit there. So highly recommend Sweetwater. So,
Definitely.
there's all the alternatives, and there might be a summer NAM show
Mm.
if we get a vaccine in time.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but yeah, going back to the Sawtooth, I mean, it's an incredible instrument. There's so many things in it, features that I wanted to include because I do own a few other acoustic basses, and they
Mm.
always felt a little bit short. And by that I mean is they were very different playing than my electric basses, and I thought, you know what? Uh, Usually when I play an acoustic basis, because I'm doing a spot in the set where here comes the acoustic portion of the set, and it would take me like a little bit to get to adjust the feel of it, the tension of the instrument, everything about it, the playability from the electric going to acoustic and then back to electric again. So we made it to feel like you're actually playing an electric bass, but it happens to be
Mm.
acoustic, and it's 24 reachable frets with the cutaway that it has, and it's a beautiful sound. It comes with the Adarius strings, which is what I use, and it comes with the Fishman preamp, piezo preamp, and it's a beautiful instrument.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, something I was watching recently, we've got through a lot of Netflix on lockdown, was the Hired Gun documentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for people who don't know it, that's one where it talks about some of the session greats working on so many records. And of course, Rudy, you're on it, about your work.
Yeah.
Uh, I saw your quote about, I was watching some clips and quotes around that show, and
Mm-hmm.
you said about, how you went from one day sleeping on Kevin Dubro's living room floor to being
Mm-hmm.
with Ozzy and Sharon and getting that gig.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm looking now, it's 40 years on. How does that feel looking back?
Feels like a miracle. I mean, if you really putting everything into perspective, it's completely a miracle that happened in my life, But it happened at the right time.
Hmm.
There was a sequence of events that led to that, and one of them was finding peace. It's really interesting that sometimes you can find peace with God, the universe, whatever people want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at the lowest points in your life. And if you can actually manage that, that's a gift, because that's
Yeah.
something you can really take with you for the rest of your life. And that's probably the most important moment. It's the moment that's where the door shows up that you're going to walk through
Yeah.
when you're ready into a new beginning, a new era, you
Yeah.
know. And always keep in mind where you came from and what led to that moment of trusting. Sometimes you have to let go. Sometimes you just work so hard and trying to
Yeah.
make things happen. I work harder at my failures than I do on my successes. you know
Yeah.
and sometimes you just need to recognize that. Sometimes you just need to let go and say, okay, I learned from this experience. I To me, there's no bad choices or bad experiences, because if you
Mm.
learn from them, you have grown as an individual, and that's
Yeah.
what we're here to do in this realm of existence.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I now that I'm in lockdown, and you do a lot of thinking. And one of them was to get myself back to that moment, to find that peace that I had 40 years before I acquire all the blessings. By
Mm.
acquiring, I mean not only the material things, but the things that I've been able to achieve, in my career, and the people that I've met, playing with, people that we share a journey and we accomplish things. Uh, it's one of the things that I realize is sometimes you work so hard in the pursuit of happiness, when
Yeah.
you will never achieve complete happiness until you find complete peace. Peace will lead you to happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness, it's almost an unattainable because the more you have, the more you want.
Yeah, and you'll never reach it.
You never reach it. But if you're at peace with what's going on at this moment, and you say, okay, it's okay, you realize that it's not a perfect world. You know, sometimes that's our goal, to achieve perfection. And I'm not just talking musically, because that's an art form. Yeah. And no art is perfect. It's art. Yeah. You know, as a matter of fact, you take a Picasso.
Yeah.
It's the most if you look, you're gonna compare with real life, it's not. Even though Picasso was a trained, artist that could do photorealistic. That's how he started his career. And he says, no, I don't want to keep doing portraits. I want to create something completely original and new. And the perfect imperfect art form.
Yeah,
that's sublime.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, I mean, for about a perfect art form, I think we can talk about it. What many people consider a perfect album, which is Blizzard of Oz, and 40 years on from that tour and those tours with yourself and Randy and Tommy Aldridge. What does that feel like, looking back on those tours that they've slipped into the kind of mythology of heavy metal?
Well, it was really interesting because, you were talking about the Hired Gun movie.
Yeah.
And one thing that most of us, and I say most of us is because most of the people that were interviewed in the movie started out as hired guns and that were mentor. Like, let's say Ray Parker Jr., mentored by Stevie Wonder, and myself, mentored by Ozzy, Jason Hook, mentored by Alice Cooper, and the list goes on. It's a great opportunity to really experience and gain that knowledge of what the music industry is all about before you set out to create your own group that you're an equal member of. Whether with Ray Parker was radio, and then as a solo artist, with my case it was Quiet Riot, Metal Health. And I say Metal Health because I was always also a part of the Randy Rhoads version of the band. But we're talking about Metal Health version of the band. So, I learned so much. About 90% of everything that I've learned in the music industry, I learned on that tour, being mentored by Ozzy and Randy too. He mentored me because he already been, recording. He recorded those albums. He had been on the road with Ozzy even before I joined the band. The Blizzard of Oz band had gone on tour in England, and I believe in the UK also. I'm sorry, in Europe, some dates. I'm not completely sure about that because of course I wasn't there. But they had definitely done a bunch of shows. So Randy had that under his belt. He had spent like a year and a half with Ozzy at least by the time that I joined the band. So there was an adapting period when I joined the band. Because Ozzy and Sharon, they're very unique individuals, and they do things a little bit different than the average band leaders and manager and so on. So it was kind of like Randy took me through the process of it and says, it has nothing to do with you. This is what they do, and he really helped me, completely. And then later on, I was able to return the same favor, but with Brad Gillis when he joined the band.
Actually, I was gonna.
I'm sorry.
No, sir. Well, what I was going to ask, actually, what you just led on to was you did the tours, of course, and the final one you did resulted in the Speak of the Devil live album.
That wasn't really a tour. That was actually, we finished the tour with Brad, and then we went in a couple of weeks later, we went in to record the Speak of the Devil, which I believe in England is Talk of the Devil. Talk of the Devil, So I Speak of the Devil, the Black Sabbath re-recording live. And I immediately left the band officially to join the mental health version of Quiet Riot after I finished those live recordings. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny
Yes.
because, sorry to interrupt you. It's
No.
funny because that album, I mean, it came out of obviously tough circumstances with Randy having passed away and, you know, the contractual obligation with Ozzy's health and all that kind of thing. But now it seems to be considered by a lot of fans as a real favorite and a great record. And, you know, it seems to have weathered really well. So I don't know. It's a funny one. Do you remember the kind of, the build up to those shows, especially with Brad Gillis and Tommy working through the songs?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long build up because that there was talk about recording that, and it went through phases.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be a different show. It was going to be like also videoed with Randy. The original talk was with Randy. Randy did not want to be a part of that, and then right before he passed away, he agreed to do it with some you know, conditions that he wanted to set, and so they were negotiating that back and forth, and then he passed away. But so we did two things with Brad. We did another thing called Speak of the Devil, which is the live version of the Diary of a Madman tour recorded at Irvine in California, which was the last show that we did for the Diary of a Madman tour in the continental US, because we went to Hawaii after that, but that's not the mainland, you know. And so we did that show, and it broadcast on MTV Halloween 1982, a few months later. So that was just us performing live the Diary of a Madman tour that we have been doing. And then we came back and we did these another thing called Speak of the Devil, which is the re-recording of the Black Sabbath songs. So it was a long process. You know, people say, "Oh, how come there's no videos?" You know, with Randy, and so that was a plan. That was a definite plan. But Randy died. You know, you don't foresee. Well, let's shoot it this week because you know somebody's going to die next week. You just don't know. You know, and so basically, it was a long process, and there was some changes to it just because it was just going to be one rather than the two. The two things, you know, the live show with, you know, at Irvine, and then the re-recordings at the Ritz. You know, that just, things just evolve as out of necessity.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, I was listening to it again, re-listening to it this afternoon. I think it's still such a great record. Oddly, you know, I don't know if you're still fond of it or if you.
Yeah, I think that the fact that Sharon mentioned to the band that there was not going to be any overdubs.
Okay.
That gave us a different focus rather than to going out there and showboating. By that I mean, you know, moving around and doing all of that. We treated it more like a studio recording because we knew there was, you know, plus in order to maintain a lower volume level proper for recording in a small place, because a lot of the recordings that you hear, live recordings, are done in arenas. This is done basically in a club, the Ritz, a big club, but nevertheless a club, not even a theater, a club. So they wanted to maintain the level so you could get a better mix, better isolation. So the monitors, the wedges that we would have on the side, you know, the side fills were removed. My wedges were removed. So I really could not hear the drums very well unless I stood right next to Tommy's drum. And I figured, you know, the crowd is here just for the effect of playing live. This is really a recording. This is not a video that we're doing. So we treated it that way. Like it was almost, my attitude was like, okay, I'm in the studio. There's not going to be any overdubs. This is what I'm going to play. It's what's going to be there forever and ever.
Yeah.
On record, and so that was pretty much our attitude, and that's why there's certain intensity, because it is live, but with no overdubs, and we knew that. See, I've done recordings that are a little bit more lax, because you say, okay, we're gonna record this, and if we need to fix something, we'll fix it later. So then you're going, okay, so the energy is completely different.
Yeah.
There's not this intensity of going like every note really matters. It always does, but it really matters a little bit more if you know that it's going to be there forever, which is a brand new attitude. Because now with iPhones, that if you make a mistake, it's going to be on YouTube for eternity.
Exactly.
So again, it brings you that certain intensity.
Yeah. Do you think funny thing is, it seems to have gone the reverse in studio recording for some people, at least, where it's now the attitude is we'll get it in the editing, not necessarily for metal music, but for some genres, it seems to be that, you don't have to be a great bass player, singer, drummer, whatever, and they'll, you can still have a hit. Do you think there's too much choice and too much technology kind of freedom has reduced the role of musical talent? Or
no, because it's all down to creativity. I do a lot of projects at home, and to me the downside of let's say you send me tracks to play on, right? It's the fact that when I get those tracks, we don't have a previous history. We have never played together. We really don't know, we're making music, but we don't know each other.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's like in a relationship.
Yep.
When you meet somebody, let's say a partner, you want to have that period of getting to know each other before you take your clothes off and jump into bed.
For sure.
Yeah. Like, at least let's go out to dinner. Let's talk.
Talk for 20 minutes first. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
And there's nothing like that. So you just get the music, and you're either giving certain instructions, kind of like sheet music, which I prefer, or you get a ghost track, or you're told, do your thing. When somebody tells me to do my thing, it's like, it's a lot of things that I can do with this.
Yeah.
Which one are you thinking of?
Yeah.
So it's a whole different approach. And when they tell me do your thing, it involves a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really sure if doing my thing according to what you think my thing is going to be is exactly the same thing that I think my thing is going to be.
Yep.
So it's a whole different process. That those thoughts were completely eliminated with pre-production, which is like when you're talking about making a record, whether it was a Quiet Riot record or Whitesnake record, or even the Ozzy re-recordings. We got together in the room. We figure it out before we actually went in the studio. And now unless I'm being asked, okay, this is either the direction or play this, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Really. So those, and these have become my favorite ways of recording music from artists that I have no previous history with. Ask me, what do you want me to play? And I treat it more like a session musician than a band collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you wrote about, I mean, for people who wanted to hear about, say, your time with Ozzy, you wrote your book in 2006, I think, Off the Rails, about that period of detail.
Yeah.
But the last question I wanted to ask about that era was, you know, looking back now, it's easy about to look at Randy Rhoads ranked with, say, Tony Iommi and maybe Eddie Van Halen as that league, you know, that 1% of guitar players. But at the time, did you have that feeling of working with him, or is it just he's my friend, he's a great player?
Well, you know, what happens is when you're playing at that level,
Yeah,
that becomes the norm, you know, and I don't take it for granted because my goal was every night to rise to that level. You know, it brought the best out of me. Um, no, yeah, you do get a bit spoiled
mm,
because to go on stage with greatness every night, you know, and this is what I do,
yeah,
you know, uh, with greatness meaning the people that I play with, you know, Randy and Tommy Eldridge and Ozzy and Don Airy and so on. Uh, it's something that after it's gone,
yeah,
you keep searching for it. Sometimes you find glimpses of it in things that you do with other bands, moments like playing with Ronnie James Dio
yeah,
was one of those things. You know, this is and it's a greatness based on a legacy, not just somebody that is great and 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 you can see that wow, this person is got great natural talent, and in 20 years from now I can't wait to hear what he has accomplished musically. By
yeah,
the time that I started playing with Ronnie in 2004, he had been around since the 70s as a recording, you know, rock and roll recording
yeah,
artist with Rainbow. So we're talking about somebody he's seasoned,
yeah,
and he just got better. It's not that he just got better. It's kind of like an onion that you peel a
yeah.
layer, you know,
Just
and
has more to
and
give.
yeah, yeah, it's more to give. You know, you getting to you got he opened up his heart every night and he peeled that layer. So every night you were getting closer to
Yeah,
him, and it was just a very it's you know, playing with artists like that is it's not only it's a blessing, but once they're gone, there's something missing in your life,
mm,
you know, and that's hard because then you spend the rest of your life trying to find that again,
yeah,
and you realize that no, you're not going to get that. You might get something else from somebody else, but don't don't punish yourself
yeah,
trying to find something that might be a once in a lifetime
yeah.
experience.
Like a Randy Rhoads or a Dio.
Like a yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to ask later on because I was watching the Holy Diver live in London. So
Hmm.
you and Doug Aldrich and of course Dio. It's just a
Hmm.
great show.
Hmm.
Um, Looking back, it's funny enough that you're one of the few musicians who, of course, work with Ozzy and with Dio. So I know they're such different experiences. But how did
Yeah.
that?
I think on top of my head, the other one is Bob Daisley because
Yeah,
Bob worked with Ronnie and Rainbow, and I think he did some Dio shows with him, and
yeah,
then of course, you know, with Ozzy, you know.
yeah. Nice. That's fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, uh, well, I guess that obviously everyone knows when from after leaving Ozzy's band, you Quiet Riot and then Metal Health took off to a place that nobody could have imagined it taking off to. And
Yeah,
MTV,
not even us. Yeah, we have, you know, when you do something honestly, I
yeah,
think that the audience gets it because there was no master plan. As a matter of fact, there was a lot of compromises that we and the label made with each other because they wanted they even wanted us to cut our hair. I mean, I think Frankie Frankie Benelli and I
yeah,
had the longest hairs in the band, And since they were based out of LA, Pasha Records, which was a division, distributed through Columbia, Epic, uh, they had no clue of the new wave of metal that was coming from the
Yeah.
UK and Europe, because they were just looking in their own backyard, Los Angeles, and at the time, what was popular in 1982 was still new wave and
Yeah.
punk, more of that. And so actually, I've heard rumors that the reason why
Mm-hmm.
Epic decided to release the Pasha record of Metal Health was so because they figure, of all the records that we heard that Pasha has that wants to release, probably Metal Health is the one that's going to flop the biggest, because they wanted to get out of the record of the
Yeah.
distribution deal that they had. I've heard this.
And
I've
then
heard this.
that's
This is a
fascinating.
rumor,
Yeah.
but I've heard this from really good sources. And so it was kind of like, have you ever watched the movie the Producers?
Yes. Yes. We got to
Yeah,
find a surefire flop.
yeah, exactly. So, but certain things fell into place. It was serendipitous how the whole thing went from us, going on the road in the station wagon supporting
Mm.
Vandenberg
Yeah.
in California, Northern California, to all of a sudden we're opening up for the Scorpions, because the agency that just signed us up, they handled the Scorpions too, and the Scorpions happened to be doing a short tour to warm up for the US Festival, the
Yeah. Yeah.
1983 US Festival. Okay. And so on the last show that we did in Denver, the promoter for the US Festival, who was also the local promoter in Denver, Barry Fay,
Yeah.
they had just moved Joel Walsh from the Metal Day to the following day, which is more like the Stevie Nicks and David
Yeah.
Bowie day. And he says, "Hey, I got the spot on the Metal Day. You guys want to play it?" So that was like 2 days away from the show, and we made all the arrangements and we played the US Festival. We were the first band on,
Yeah.
so there was like a big, like Kevin DeBro appear on a lot of newspaper
Yep. Yep.
cover, the front page announcing the US Festival, because he was the first band on. And then after that, we just started getting on, touring with ZZ Top, and then ZZ Top, Loverboy, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, and during that period, by June, we had Come and Feel the Noise on MTV on every half hour. And before you knew it, it was just, by the time that we went to number one in November of 1983,
Yeah.
in those days, you had to sell 1 million copies to get to number one. And we beat Thriller and Synchronicity, all those
Yeah.
incredible records, to get it to number one. And then after that, we start our last supporting tour was with Judas Priest in the UK. November, December of 1983. By the time that we came back, we went back on the road New Year's Eve, and we started our headlining tour New Year's Eve at Cobo Hall in
Yeah.
Detroit. And it was such a huge roller coaster ride. It was just amazing. But there was nobody thought that band was ever going to accomplish
Yeah.
anything.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, from then, of course, you went. Actually, I was just going to briefly ask how was touring with Priest at that period, because I think that was the Screaming for Vengeance,
Yes.
very great peak for them. Do you have any fond memories from that tour?
Oh, sure. Great band, great people. They were wonderful. Okay. That was Rob
course.
Halford calling. You know, he said,
He heard
make
you.
sure
Yeah.
you say something nice. I'm listening. No, they were wonderful. As a matter of fact, yeah, Rob walked in, dressing room. Hey, cheers, man. You know, welcome to the tour, and KK, all the guys. You know, which is fantastic. But the audience,
Yeah.
they really embraced us. But of course, they're the headliners. And they're there to watch Priest. And what was really the toughest thing opening up for Priest was that they are a precision machine.
Yeah.
Every single night is tight, spectacular, so you have to rise to that level, or at least aspire to it,
Definitely.
every single night, because you're going on the road, you're doing some sacrifices. Of course, you play music, you're doing what you love, but you're away from home, and you're only given one chance. Every town, every city that you play, this is it. You're either going to leave, you're going to leave that you want the crowd to remember you. Okay, we're Judas Priest fans and everything, but that band that opened up for them, they were okay. At least
they were pretty good. I'll check out their album. Pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the reason why you're there, and the better the headliner is that becomes more difficult, and so you got to find things from places that from inside of you that you were not even aware that you had, in order to present that memory. You have to wow. You have to become memorable in a situation where the headliner is probably going to erase everything that you have just done on stage.
Exactly. That's brilliant. Well, I mean, speaking of those kind of headliners, after Quiet Riot, of course, later on the 80s, you took the next huge step to Whitesnake.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any trepidation kind of after having been in such huge, say first with Ozzy, then with Quiet Riot, of things blowing up so big and so fast? Was there anything that made you?
No. I mean, okay, how that thing came about was because I already had familiarized myself with Whitesnake, the members, the organization, because Whitesnake was the opening band for Quiet Riot in '84. So we had gone on tour. And so I understood the dynamics of the group. Originally, right after I left Quiet Riot in '85 and Tommy left Ozzy, we started working together, and Whitesnake's management calls us in and invites us to join the band for what was going to become the '87 record. That was in '85. That album did not get released until 1987, and I had already been on tour. And this is just the plain fact that even today, there was a tension that I noticed between John Sykes and David. And I wasn't about to leave one situation to join another situation. So, again, there's nothing to do with talent. It has to do with more like
chemistry,
business dynamics, whatever you want to call them. And so I again, once the record was finished, David put together a list, gave it to John Colatner, and says, okay, this is who I want for the band. And so by 2 years later, once it was just David, the only member left, I felt safe to get into that situation, And so we did, the first video we did was Still of the Night. And we met as a band, met Adrian and Vivian Campbell. Of course, I have been playing with Tommy, doing some other projects. And we looked at each other and we go, wow, this could be a really, really great band.
You met on the set of the video for Still of the Night.
Well, I had known Vivian briefly, from being in LA, and I had done some shows with Vandenberg with Quiet Riot opening up. but it's not the same thing as
Yeah.
people
Now
making a
we're a band.
commitment.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want to, again, it's kind of like that. Making the video was kind of like our first date.
Definitely.
Before we jumped into like musical bed. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the best things, I think that was certainly mind blowing to watch, was the live at Donington, of course, the one later on with Vi and Vandenberg and yourself
Mm.
and Tommy. Another incredible live album.
Yeah, it's next week is going to be, I believe, a 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
Of that performance. Yeah. Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, to me, yes, it was great touring in America with Whitesnake, but Whitesnake being an English band playing in England with the band was always something extra special. There was something, and again, you needed, you have such a legacy that was born in England, Whitesnake legacy. So you always, and the fans are diehards. They weren't just fans because they saw the band on MTV. They were fans because they believe in the band from day one, dating back to, the 70s, right after Deep Purple broke up, and there's such a beautiful family tree of the band that just being a part of it, it's really a privilege.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's 30 years on now since that recording, that show. And if I'm not mistaken, you just done some work with Adrian Vandenberg in the studio again.
Yes, I actually, he asked me to play on 3 songs, I believe 3 or 4 songs. I think it was 3 songs. Yeah. And because, he has his own band with members. So I was just doing a guest spot, And I love Adrian. Adrian is like family. Yeah. I mean, there's people musicians that I play with, and I'm still in great relationship with everybody, at least from my end, and, but Adrian, it's a little bit different because, sometimes you just play with people that you feel that comfortable with, it's, and the goofier the musician, the closer we get.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I read, which was kind of like a wiki fact or fiction thing, is that you're an avid digital animator as well.
Well, I was heavily into animation a few years ago before I got LASIK.
Yeah.
LASIK, because what happened was I would go on the road with my computer and put my glasses on and start, making animation, 3D animation, 3D. And I was actually trained by major people that would go around training other, artists. So, because this is something that a lot of people might not realize this. If you look at the standards in the motion picture and music industry, you have 3, well, actually 2. It's called avid, 1, right? So you have the avid, it's the editor, video editor, which is the standard in Hollywood. And then you have Pro Tools, because once Avid added Pro Tools to their brand, now you have video and audio. So they went out and bought another software called Soft Image, which at the time was also, along with Maya and 3ds Max, were the standard of the industry, right? So now you have, for special effects, you got Soft Image, and for audio and video, you have the Avid editor, and you have Pro Tools. So since I was already using Pro Tools, I was trained in Soft Image for the 3D animation. So that's how it came about. And it was great until Soft Image was sold to 3ds Max, who also had owned Maya by then, and Soft Image. So it's just, there's a little bit of a monopoly there, but they have created some beautiful, wonderful software. And then what happened is they incorporated a lot of the great features from different software into one package.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Well, I mean, the only thing I guess still have to ask you is for what's the near future looking like for you, and anything to say particular for your fans during this lockdown, or projects to look forward to, anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, I am really busy. I got my radio show. I have other projects. As a matter of fact, I just we're starting on a brand new real time live streaming animation with some mind blowing technology that you can actually do real time animation. You don't have to spend months or weeks or years to render a whole show and put it together. This is done in real time, with some incredible technology. And so I'm involved with that project and creating, music with different artists, music instruction. The same company that does my acoustic basses, we have a couple of new programs, instructional videos, but based on the needs of the listener, of the people that come to watch. One of them is called Ask Rudy, and I will answer your questions, and hopefully most of them are music related. I mean, I will answer what is Ozzy's favorite color if you want to know, but I'm hoping for better.
That's
better
what everyone's
questions.
dying to know. Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, and I mean, there's so many opportunities to really, give back to the music community, and one of them is, I am blessed to have had some, certain outstanding experiences with some of the greatest musicians in the world, in the history of pop music, and I want to share that because I've learned a lot from the best, and I want to give back and help others, especially at a time when in the music industry there's less mentoring happening because record companies are not involved anymore. Musicians are left to create their own.
There's not that support anymore.
Their own art. But even every artist had gone to either art school or where the proteges of a mentor. That's how it was with, even let's say, Michelangelo, Da Vinci. They had interns. They had all these people that they were teaching as they went along, and that's kind of like disappearing as the music industry disappears, because back in the day we had great producers, artist relation people, and they were so involved in shaping a band, artists, their vision, because you have to have your own vision, but if you have to be a diamond in the rough, and these incredible executives were involved in making you into a shiny diamond.
Well, Mr. Rudy Sarzo, you're certainly one of those shiny diamonds, and certainly a great, one of those legends. Thank you so much for your time and for your stories.
It's a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. God bless. Hopefully we'll see you on the road soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.